Are we filming? Yes, we are. So welcome to another video. This is a review. Of the Filofax Kendal in A5 series. Let's get cracking straight away. And then at the end, I'll give you the pros and cons and current prices, that sort of thing. But let's have a look at the Filofax Kendal in A5. So I think we need to start with the fundamental attraction for me of the Filofax Kendal in A5, and it's not necessarily the rings, although the rings are pretty generous. They're 30mm rings, which I know a lot of you like, but it's this perfect flatability. And so I'm told this isn't something that you have to work at. This had good flatability from day one, and as I've always said, it is due to the construction of the binder across the spine here. It definitely feels as if there's one stiffener here with a hinge here. Now, if anyone from Filofax is watching this, then if you're unsure how to make modern binders with good flatability, then just buy one of these. If you don't have one, then buy one cheaply on eBay, get a scalpel, remove this leather, remove all the padding underneath, and then have a look at the way the stiffeners are placed in this design, because this is how you get good flatability with a binder that is made out of multiple layers of padding with a thin layer of leather over the top. This is how you do it. If you've got I won't mention how you do it with a full thickness piece of leather, because Filofax don't no longer make full thickness leather binders anymore. They just do this sort of multiple layers with some padding and then a thin layer on top, which looks good. But yes, this is the Filofax Kendal. Now this is kind of it's described as oiled leather. Although it says here, it doesn't say oiled leather. It just says A5 Filofax A5 Kendal real leather. Personally, I'm always suspicious when a company says real leather, because they're just trying to disassociate the product from imitation leather. And it's saying here, in case you're wondering, this is real leather. And to be honest, it feels like real leather. It's just a thin layer of leather, but nevertheless it feels good. I would prefer it if it actually said what type of leather, because that's something that Filofax don't generally do, whereas rivals make a big play of the provenance of the leather used. Filofax don't seem to either they don't want to tell you where the leather's come from, or it hasn't occurred to them that it would lift the product by promoting the leather binder, which is something that I guess a lot of people buy into because they want a binder that, at least on the surface, has it has that feel of luxury leather. This certainly does feel to me like luxury leather. I've always liked the fact that this oiled leather feels good, much better than some of the leathers they use, say for the Finsbury, for instance, or the Norfolk. This, although there is a coating on this, it has been treated. It's more akin to real leather than certain other models. So full marks for this leather. I like it. Just doing a sniff test. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it just one of the other big advantages, in my opinion, is the fact that it smells fantastic. It actually smells of leather. Now, that might sound strange to someone who's not familiar with filofaxes, but for those in the know, as we all know, there are certain leather filofaxes which do not smell of leather at all. And they've got a sort of plastic coating on top of the leather. Okay, they're stamped real leather or leather, but it's a leather, but not as I wouldn't say not as we know it, because we're familiar with this issue, but certainly I guess different people like different things. So some people prefer, if you like something where there are no marks and imperfections, you've got the leather embossed, say a Norfolk, where everything is very, very normal, very normalised and uniform. I can understand that some people really, really like that. Personally, I like the concept of having, well, certainly this oiled leather is something that tends to get scratched and marked very, very easily, but this kind of oiled finish allows people to, it just blends in. It has a certain patina or patina, not quite the same as a full thickness leather. It's not quite the same as, I mean, this is a plotter I've recently purchased, and it's got it doesn't say real leather, because we all know it's real leather. They don't need to put, hey, this is real leather. I believe this is Pueblo leather from the Battalassi Carlo tannery in Italy, and it's nice to know. And this leather will become. It will improve as I progress in ownership. To a certain extent, this leather will do so as well, but with the proviso that if you use this in anger too much, you will wear this thin layer down to the whatever's inside here, foam or cardboard, or I have, as you know, I've taken a scalpel to a couple of filofaxes, and I have revealed what's in here. But let me have a look. Yeah, if I show you this, which is a compact Finsbury, looks fantastic inside. Looks absolutely fantastic. But when it gets a little bit worn, you can see, hopefully, that there comes a time when you're using it in anger so much that the thin layer of leather on top wears away, revealing what appears to be several layers of cardboard underneath. And so that is something to be aware of with binders like this, that are ostensibly a man-made binder, but with a surface layer of leather. But it is possible that the owner of one of these, especially the A5 one, where it's more likely to be kept at home or in the office, I think they're fairly robust, but you have to be aware of the fact that there are limits. This is not leather through and through. It's not going to get gradually better and better and better with age. It will look better with age to the point where it starts to look really nasty when the dam fails, as it were, when the wear is so bad, particularly here on the spine, where it fails. And I don't know whether you can see. Let me show you this. So the can you see that? The stitching is already subject to some wear. It's pulling out. presumably because this is obviously a very vulnerable part of any binder. This bottom edge of the spine doesn't look like there's any real noticeable wear yet, although as you can see there's lots of creasing, and you can see from the creasing that that there is some sort of leather coat. There's some sort of coating on top of the leather here, but it's standing up. It's standing up. I mean, I am being harsh, but as you know, I am always harsh. I'm always harsh. I like to tell you the good and the bad for these, but so far we're okay. The Filofax design of the stiffeners allow perfect flatability right out of the box. I mean, that is a really good start. The leather is pretty good. It feels good, and the scratches can be rubbed off, and I think it's all part of the charm. As I say, 30mm rings, which is what a lot of people want. This was available in back in the day in certainly A5 format, only available in brown, this one, and black. I need to give myself a bit more space here. So black or brown. This binder, this Filofax model, the Kendal, was made in every size, even going all the way down to mini. I'm not sure whether it was made in A4, don't think so, but I'm not quite sure about that. So certainly everything from mini to A5. But this one, the A5, is rarer. If you look online for these, occasionally you see them online, but you don't see very many. You do not see very many in the A5 format. But I'll talk about prices and availability at the end of the video. So lots of different sizes. The A5 is rarer, and it's black and brown. Now, I think we need to turn our attention to the pen loops, because I have deliberately put my favourite Pilot G2 in this pen loop, and this is bigger. This is bigger than a Filofax pen. So will a Filofax pen fit in here? Yes, but it is loose, so you have to clip it onto the leather. But be careful here. There are pros and cons. There are pros and cons to these elasticated pen loops. So as you can see, it's elasticated with a piece of leather on top for aesthetic reasons. So if you're going to use a narrow pen like a Filofax pen, then make sure that you clip it on. Make sure you avoid clipping it onto the elastic, because you're going to rip it. So make sure. It's a bit of a faff, but it is. There are pros and cons of this. I mean, the pro of this design, which isn't unique to Filofax, Vanderspec, for instance, make this as well. But the idea is to give it a little bit more class, which it does, and it's a clever design. But it allows you to fit a fatter pen. You probably aren't going to be able to use something like a TWSBI Go, because it doesn't have a pointy end. It's just got a flat end, and you're going to wreck that elastic. You're definitely going to wreck that elastic. So it is doable. Let's have a look at a Pilot V7, because the Pilot V7 is one of my favourite pens, and that has a flat end, and this does fit very nicely. It fits very nicely. So if you're into your pilot pens, either the V series or the G series, like I am, this works very well. It will fit. It will fit a narrow pen, but you have to make sure that the clip fits onto it's holding the leather, not the elastic. So that's an important note. But it's going to be really tricky to get a big fat fountain pen in there. So there are limitations. But the advantage of this, and I have checked these. So this is the one on the other side. So you've got 2 pen loops. These appear to be the same diameter. I'm not going to try and fit the, well, let's just do that. I'm just being lazy here. So you could see the ease with which I could fit my Pilot V7, and it feels identical to the other side. Hey, having 2 pen loops is good. I certainly enjoy using, when I remember when I bought my Filofax Sherwood 32 years ago now. It has 2 pen loops. This one is a standard Filofax size, and this one on this side is a slightly wider diameter. But one of the reasons why I bought the Filofax Sherwood at the time, not realizing that I hit the jackpot, i.e. perfect flatability, fantastic rings, good quality leather, all the things that I aspire to now. Well, I knew nothing. I knew nothing then, because I just bought it. And I distinctly remember the thing that appealed to me was the fact that the Sherwood had 2 pen loops, whereas some others didn't. So this availability, this dual pen loop feature on the Sherwood saved me from possibly buying a Filofax that was not so good and then becoming disenchanted with the whole thing and never getting into this love of Filofax that I have today, such that I own 200 binders or more, growing all the time. So pen loops, I'm not really a keen fan of leather-covered, elasticated pen loops, because it's going to sag. It's if you're using this in anger over many years, the elastic is going to sag. Luckily, it's black, so it won't show the dirt. Some of them have a color coordinated elastic to match the color of the binder, and that's going to show the dirt, isn't it? Whereas this isn't going to show the dirt. So I'm in 2 minds about this. I like the fact it's got 2 pen loops. I normally don't have pen loops on binders, but I'm becoming more of a convert to pen loops. Either ones that not necessarily ones on the binder itself, but certainly pen loops that I can replace, like this Me Plus one. I'm good. I'm very good. I feel good about pen loops. So there we go. I'm kind of eating my words about pen loops and convincing myself that I'm a big fan of pen loops, but I blow hot and cold over pen loops. So what about the strap? Well, the strap is, I actually like the strap. There have been in the past, maybe there are now. In fact, I know there are now, where there are two slivers of leather, and in between is sandwiched a sort of foam rubber insert to give the illusion of chunkier leather. Well, who's kidding who? I mean, it doesn't kid me. I think to myself, if you're going to use chunky leather, then use chunky leather. Don't use two slithers of leather with a foam rubber insert to give the illusion of, it's not attractive, and it's certainly not clever in terms of functional design. Why go to that extra process to make something that is akin to chunky leather when it would be just a few cents more to just use a piece of chunky leather? I've never understood why the Filofax designers specify that process. But this is fine. It's just two bits of leather stitched together. Well, it certainly feels like leather. Does it smell like leather? Yeah, I think that's leather. And the only difficulty for right-handed people is that if you're writing, you get to the end of the line. This is annoying. This would be very annoying for me if I'm right-handed. So I suppose if you're right-handed, you can tuck it under there, and everything will be absolutely fine. But yep, perfectly all right with the pen loop. Let's have a quick look at the manufacturer. Get my magnifying glass and just have a look. It is well, it doesn't actually say the maker. It just is stamped Filofax. Looks a bit cheaper than some I've seen, but you know, this is nearly 20 years old, between 15 and 20 years old, and it works fine. Let me just go back to the scratch thing. I can do that. Can you see? Can you see what I've just done? I've scratched it. Shock horror. Let's just see if I can just rub this out. Well, I'm sure that it will rub out eventually. I can't actually see it to the naked eye looking at the binder. I can see it. I can just about see it, but I have almost, in the glare of the light, it only appears in certain directions. So it's certainly I've almost eliminated it just by scratching and then rubbing it. So the oil of my skin and the oil in the leather, it's one of those binders where I think you need to, if you appreciate if you are the sort of person, the sort of owner who sees wear and tear and scratches as part of the charm, part of the patina or patina, then you're going to love this leather. Oiled leather, Filofax Kendal. Remember that model name. It's nice. I like the leather. I think we need to go summarise the inside, because we have. And what I've done is I've decided to fit A5 paper in here, so you can see the pros and cons of these pockets. And with this model, there's lots going on. If you like pockets, you're going to love this. If you like zips, well, you're out of luck. But I think that is much better for it, because a zipped pocket, if you had a zipped pocket here, then it would be tighter. This is actually, and it's actually usable. It doesn't have gussets to open the pockets up like Filofaxes of yesteryear used to have. I assume that they don't use them anymore because it's a process that they can make more profit by not having gussets, which I think is a shame, because the gussets for a binder which it might be desirous for someone that wants everything in one place are almost de rigueur, almost essential, and yet you're not for no gussets. You're not allowed to have gussets anymore because it would affect the bottom line of Filofax, I guess. I mean, I'm being cynical, but I suspect that's almost certainly the reason why there are no more gussets. But notwithstanding the fact there are no more gussets, this is a generous pocket. The leather itself, because of the flexibility, lends itself to putting anything up to A5 paper in here. One thing you've got to be careful of is I have fitted this deep inside the pocket. This is A5, as tightly as I can. And if you see that if I'm closing this, it will affect the rings. So you need to sort of, if you do use this for A5 paper, you need to make sure that when you close it, you do it in such a way, like lifting the binder this way, because otherwise if you do it this way, you find that the paper goes over the top of the rings. I mean, because the rings are so enormous, I don't think they've thought about this situation. But as you know, I think about these things all the time. I even think about the design of filofaxes in my sleep, and I wake up and I have a notebook, typically a filofax, a mini filofax, and I write down the note, and then I go to sleep again, I wake up, and I have no recollection that I've woken up to talk about or to think about filofaxes, and I open my filofax, and there is another note about filofax design. So I quite like that. And I'm not joking. I dream about filofaxes just occasionally, not every night, but just occasionally I will dream about filofaxes and their design and how I could improve them, what I like about them, what I don't like about them. This is, a strange world I live in, but I feel that I'm not saying I have a calling to do this, but you know what I'm saying. It is a hobby of mine. It's a passion, and so I want to share that passion with you as far as possible. But I digress. This pocket is a very useful pocket, but you have to make sure that your A5 is tucked as tightly as possible. And if you are packing things in as tight as possible, inevitably you're not going to be able to pack 20 sheets of A5 in here as tightly as possible because of the corners here, where the leather is sewn together, it becomes progressively narrower at that particular corner. So if you could just about do a folded piece of A4 here, which is what this is, a folded piece of A4, making it A5. But inevitably, if you've got some fancy paperwork you don't want rucked up because it's being bent over the rings, then you need to use another pocket. And so we do have, for that very purpose, another pocket. Now, I suspect that this is for an A5 writing pad. It's got this sort of mesh here. I actually like this. In all the binders I've had with this mesh, I've never seen the mesh come apart or the stitching come undone or any rip in this. So it is pretty good. Again, it's tight. So you're not going to have 20 sheets in here. But there is a plan C, but hold your horses. So this, I would say, is a really, really good idea for an A5 notebook. And there are loads of notebooks, A5 notebooks, out there, very, very cheaply. So I really, really like a pocket like this that has this design, and the advantage, I guess, of having a notebook here is that you don't need the dashboards to write on. The problem at this other end is if you're writing on here, you do need a dashboard, and it needs to be a substantial one or a dashboard plus several pieces of paper, because you cannot write on this because of the format of these pockets. You need something to write on, so like to lean on, like a dashboard. But it is inevitably the same with any filofax. And you know what the solution is. Just take the page you want to write on out of the binder by doing this, and then taking it out, right, and then put it back. But a word of warning, this binder. I mean, these rings are enormous. They're obviously a good capacity. But what I would say is, if you live in the UK and you are thinking of, and you've won the lottery maybe, or you come into some money or an inheritance, and you decide to buy that lovely vicarage in that beautiful chocolate box village next to the church, do not buy that house next to the church, because if you do and you are the owner of a Filofax Kendal, then the these rings are so noisy that you're going to get the dead rising out of their coffins and knocking on your window and saying, please keep your voices down and don't even think about using your Filofax Kendal. Thank you very much. It is really noisy. They're really noisy. You're not going to want to use this maybe in an open plan office. You're going to affect your staff. You're going to affect everybody. If you're in a library or if you're a student in a lecture hall, listening to a lecture, they will probably send you out. They'll say, who are they? Who is the person that owns a Filofax Kendal? Don't they know that Filofax Kendals are not allowed in universities for that sound? So they're really, really noisy. And you can't easily replace them either. If you've got a ring alignment, I mean, these are not the best. These aren't Kraus. I mean, they're probably good enough. I mean, these ones here, there's no problem at all, other than the noise. But they are riveted. They are riveted, and the rivets cannot easily be replaced because you'd need to unstitch the leather covering. So it's doable, but it's a long-winded process that needs some skill. Now, I personally haven't done it. I've replaced the rings that are just riveted all the way through. The advantage of having captive hidden rivets like this is you can put it on a table and it's not going to scratch the table. So, if you buy one of these, treat the rings gently, but don't even think about changing them, because chances are it's going to get really, really complicated, and then you'll end up with a D-rings. With a D-ringed binder. In fact, I actually think that's the reason why there are so many D-ringed binders out there. It's because people have good intentions. They start replacing the rings, find out that they can't put them back, and then they think, I know, let's just use it as a cover, a leather cover for a moleskin notebook or something. One other thing that I need to point out is this material. It has the Filofax logo. It's this sort of lining, this sort of man-made lining that is so common in these binders. I actually like it. Because it's. I mean, that I have problems with peeling linings with certain models like the Guildford series and the Executive series, but these are bulletproof. The only thing I would say with this one is it is loose. It's a little bit loose. I don't know whether that's because it was poorly fitted. I suspect it's probably poorly fitted rather than it's gradually stretched over the years. Because I've never really seen one that's stretched. I think this was just loose like this, a bit poorly fitted from day one, and it's sailed through the quality control, if there was quality control. I don't know, but whatever the situation, this is sitting on my desk with no stitching has come undone, but it is a little bit baggy and saggy. But would I worry about that in general day-to-day use? Not at all. It's not going to affect the operation or indeed the look of the binder in its closed form. So what are the pros? What are the pros of this binder? Well, first of all, the big thing is absolutely perfect flatability. The generous pockets. Oh, I forgot to tell you about the pocket on the back, because this is a clever idea. So you've got a deep pocket here. Again, you've got I've put a piece of A5 here to show you that it will fit. And this pocket is more generous. You could probably get 20 sheets of folded A4 in here. And I love this design. I love the fact that the pen loop is actually attached to the to the actual pocket rather than the binder itself. So that kind of keeps your papers intact without them falling out. Even with the binder like this, with the pen loop open, they're not going to slide out because they're just not going to slide out. So I really like the fact that this has really good pockets. So I guess that is a big pro for this A5 binder. Generous pockets. You've got this big pocket here, you've got this big pocket here, you've got this big pocket here. So 3 big pockets, and then you've got these 6 card slots. It is designed for people that like to have everything in one place. The only thing missing is a zipped pocket, but you know, it is what it is. It is what it is. The expandable pen loops, well, it's not everybody's cup of tea, but for those that are using something like a Pilot V7, which wouldn't normally fit in a standard Filofax pen loop, this is perfect. This is perfect. So it depends on your situation, but you may find that these expandable pen loops make the difference between purchase or passing it by. I really like these, even though the elastic is going to sag over time, but it is what it is. It is what it is. The 30mm rings, well, I know a lot of you absolutely love big rings. So this has got them, 30mm rings, so enormous capacity. So what are the cons? What are the cons of the Filofax Kendal in A5? Well, I mention A5 because they're rare. They're hard to get hold of, and that affects prices, but we'll talk about that in a moment. Excuse me. They're rare, and they are inevitably, with this pen loop and strap arrangements, they are considerably bulkier than a personal size. In fact, if you look at the width of an A4 sheet, it's kind of very, very close to the width of A4. You've got to have a lot of space, not only in your bag or your shelf, but also on your desk. I mean, here I've got a bit of a cluttered desk. If I wanted to turn this so that I could write, because I'm left-handed, I would have to lean this over my stuff. It's big. It is a big binder, and if your handwriting means that you have to tilt it either that way or that way, if you're right-handed, you need plenty of desk space, or indeed plenty of space on the table in a crowded cafe, or even worse, on a train table where there's probably 4 of you sitting there, 2 of you one side, 2 of you the other side. They're all using laptops. You're using your Filofax Kendal in A5, and you're kind of butting up against the edge of the back of their laptop there, and you're going, oh, excuse me, sorry. So that is a situation where maybe, this is too much. You just don't know. It is tricky. If you're in one of those booths in a reference library, or using the shelf that's in front of you in a lecture theatre, then this might be a little bit too big. So that, I would say, is a bit of it's something that you you need to think about it. Weight, well, it's okay. It's okay. The main thing is the sheer size of it. The strap, I mean, it's not really a con because they're all like this, aren't they? They're all a bit stiff. So if you're right-handed, it can annoy you when you're writing. So maybe just tucking it out of the way. I personally prefer no strap at all for that very reason, but it is what it is. If you're right-handed, well, if you're into Filofaxes and you like pen loops and you like straps, well, you've already decided that is not a factor that makes this unworkable for you. These multiple pockets, well, I would say it's not everybody's cup of tea. The multiple pockets make it mean that if you want to write in this, then especially on the first few pages where you turn them over and you're writing on the other side, you need to remove the pages. You need to remove the pages because these it's not so bad on here, but here you may need to move the pages. And of course, if you're somewhere where you want to move the pages and they're not going to think kindly to you to making a right old racket by opening the rings, then you might feel intimidated about doing the clickety-clack thing and opening the rings and waking the dead, just so that you can take this paper out, remove the Filofax, and just put it here and do your thing. This is one of the reasons why, certainly if you're writing with limited space, like a train or a cafe, discbound binders that you completely fold back on themselves in A5 can work really, really, really well. But this may be a con. The fact that you've got such a lumpy design, as I call it, you're going to have to find maybe a dashboard and several pages so that you can write on this. Also, I guess the other thing, and it's not really a con, but if you're writing, these 30mm rings could be an impediment to smooth writing, which is something that you might not suffer from if you're using an A5 binder with smaller rings. But it's definitely something to consider. I've gone through the noisiness. I've gone through the quality of the rings is not top of the line. You know, there are binders in A5 with much better rings, but the thing is about this, you only know whether these rings are poor quality when there are gaps or misalignment problems. So you may be lucky, you may be not, but it is something to consider. You may prefer to buy something like a Vanderspec, which has Krauss rings, but you pay a little bit more money for that, even secondhand. And finally, well, the riveted ring mechanism, as I've already mentioned, you can't really replace. It's a little bit too difficult. Now, if you're buying one of these, obviously you can't buy one new. You might be lucky and find new old stock somewhere, or one that hasn't really been used at all, as we've all done, I'm sure. We've seen binders online that it says not completely still boxed, unused. Great, but these are the things to look for. So there are leather problems. The leather problems being the fact that you must remember that this is not full thickness leather. It is just a very thin veneer over a man-made layers of material. Okay, so you need to be aware of two main points. One, the bottom of the spine, which can wear quite easily, and also I've seen many binders where the leather, the man-made layers are starting to show through the corners here. So you pay your money and you take your choice, but you need to be aware that could be a potential problem, and it doesn't look great, does it, when it's folded? So look at the photos very, very carefully to see whether it's about to it's about to give way, as it were. Another thing is, I'm sure this has some sort of coating. Smells really nice, but it's not I wouldn't think it's as protected as some of the more recent binders, which almost look like they're not leather at all, because there's so many plastic coatings, or such a thick plastic coating. This is subject to conjecture, but my opinion is, if you buy one of these from a smoker or from a smoke-filled home, I would not be surprised if this kind of leather, this oiled leather, absorbs nasty smells more than a modern binder with those plastic coatings. So it's important, if the seller doesn't give you this information, it's important to message the seller and say, hey, just wondering, I'm thinking of buying this binder from you. Does it come from a smoke-free home? Because I wouldn't want to buy something that smells like of tobacco. And I think most people would be okay to answer that. And if they don't, move on. So I think the smells thing may be an issue. This one smells great, so I'm very, very pleased about that. Ring alignment, okay. Make sure when you look in the photos, zoom in closely. Some sellers, whether they do it inadvertently or they don't want to show you that there's misalignment problems or gaps. So scrutinize the pictures very, very carefully and make sure that the rings look in perfect alignment, and there are no gaps, because as we know, even from brand new, anecdotally, even brand new Filofax models with this type of ring sometimes have problems with gaps and misalignment from the word go, from brand new. So you need to be aware of that, and you need to look at the photographs, zoom in very, very carefully. And finally, stitching. This one's kind of okay, but you can see that there's a little bit of poor stitching there. I mean, overall, the stitching is good. The stitching is good, but look at the stitching very, very closely. The binder, certainly this one that I have in my collection, stitching is pretty good, but just this one point under here where the stitching is starting to fail. So have a look at that. Make sure that it's okay for you. I think that's basically it. I had a quick look at the time of this recording, which is October 25. Had a quick look on eBay, and the cheapest one that sold recently went for £49.56 plus the postage. So just over £50 was the cheapest one. But there were only two. Over the last 3 months, globally, in the last 3 months, only two have been sold on the eBay platform. So that just goes to show how rare these are. The other one sold for £68.28. But if you think about this, and compare this to something like I think the closest modern day equivalent would be the Filofax Lockwood. If you find one of these at a good price, this is actually a bit of a bargain, I think, because I do think it definitely has a certain feel-good factor, especially when you smell it. It smells strongly of leather, so it gives you the feel-good factor. If you're into your leather, then this may hit the spot, and you could buy one for perhaps a third of the price of something like a Lockwood. And who knows? This could be the only binder you need as a student, and taking things all through your working career, until you retire. This might be all you need. It is a binder that I'm actually quite impressed with, and as you know, I'm not always impressed with binders that Filofax make. I say it how it is, and I'm sure you would expect me to not just do the lovey-dovey thing and say, oh, how wonderful this model is, and look at these pretty colours. I'm more aiming my reviews at construction and materials rather than colours. So that is my review. So, yeah, what is my verdict? What is my verdict about this? I actually think it's one of the best in A5 that Filofax have produced. It's been a bit of a while since they stopped making this, but I do like the smell. I do like the smell. Some of the modern Filofaxes don't. They're made of leather, but they don't smell of leather at all. At least as far my subjective nose can't detect any sort of leather smell at all, which is a bit disappointing, really. When you buy a leather product, you want to enjoy the smell of the leather product. But I own this. It was actually, I didn't even buy it. I was actually given this. I was given this free of charge by a viewer, a channel viewer, and you know who you are. I'm very, very grateful of that donation. And it's been on my shelf. I haven't actually used this in anger because I'm not really an A5 kind of person, although I am considering it. I am changing that a little bit for certain use purposes, and I wouldn't want to use the A5 as a single binder where everything was in one place. That's just not me. It's just a little bit too big. But if I was if I had one in an office and I left it in the office, or left it in my home office, then this would actually be something I might choose. There are some pros and cons, as discussed, but overall, particularly because of the fundamental advantages of good flatability, this Filofax gets my vote. Thanks very much for watching. Until my next video, goodbye.